Welcome to the NPTE Final Frontier podcast, helping one student at a time. Visit NPTEFF.com to enroll today so you can pass tomorrow.
Thank you for joining us here on the NPTE Final Frontier podcast. My name is Emily.
And my name is David. Today, we will be discussing how to prepare the morning of your NPTE.
So this is a topic that I think is so important to discuss because I think to set yourself up for success, you need to start before the exam even starts. So let's dive right into it. David, what did you do the morning of your exam to prepare?
So the morning of my exam, I woke up very early, but nothing new. So I woke up early. I had a bowl of cereal. I took some time to myself just to relax. And I got there very, very early. I know they have their recommendation of how early you should get there. I got there probably an hour and a half ahead of time because in my mentality, I figured that for each moment that I spend at a kitchen table, eating cereal or just relaxing, I might as well be in the parking lot of the Prometric Center, or at least inside of the center sitting there, because I'm doing the same exact thing. So I figured, you know what? I'm going to avoid traffic. I'm just going to get there. How about you?
Now, follow-up question. Did you take the morning time slot or the afternoon time slot?
I took the morning time slot. I was an 8 a.m. Appointment, so I wanted to get it done with. I'm not really a big fan for myself of the later appointments because I don't believe in studying that day. I don't think you should ever study the day of your exam. So I know that if I took that later appointment, I would have been a little bit tempted to flip through a few things. How about you?
Yes, I did the morning time slot as well. And I had a similar morning routine as you. I made sure to wake up and give myself a lot of time to just be able to kind of rest and digest in the morning without feeling rushed. I had my kind of everything I wanted to bring with me to the testing center laid out the night before, like my clothes and any extra, granola bars, waters, everything I wanted to bring. So it was one less thing for me to worry about in the morning. That just helped kind of calm my nerves. That's something I've learned about myself. Having like a plan and being prepared ahead of time really helps me for the day of. So I woke up early. I had a nice breakfast to get myself some fuel. And then I also got there with adequate amount of time to kind of just sit in the parking lot because I also had the questions about traffic. For those of you that don't know, David and I both are in New York and we come from areas that do have a lot of traffic. So this was something that I wanted to avoid entirely. So I gave myself plenty of time, sat in the parking lot, did a little stretching session in the parking lot when I was waiting for the testing center to open. And then I hit the ground running once we were allowed in.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's no surprise that me and you both, if we can take that stress off, we are going to take that stress off and plan ahead of time. And I agree. Have everything set up that day before. I had a Dove milk chocolate bar and a Gatorade that I brought in with me. I got that the day before. I did not get that the day of. Day of is just wake up, that exam in mind, and get myself there with enough time.
While we're talking about preparing ahead of time, something else I found really beneficial was I did a test run driving to my testing center a few weeks in advance around the same time that I would need to be driving and getting to my testing site because my schedule allowed for me to do that. So it was a great opportunity to go to the testing center ahead of time because mine was about 45 minutes away without traffic. So I made sure to drive to the site, find like the best route that was the best for me, see what the traffic was like, find out the parking situations. This way, again, one less thing for me to stress about ahead of time. And for me, anything I can do to reduce that stress, I'm going to do ahead of time.
Oh, 100%. I think that traffic is so unpredictable. You never know what could be taking place on that road, whether it's construction or an accident or even just the weather. So if you can plan ahead, do it. If you can even do that trip to the Prometric Center ahead of time, do it. This way, it's not you're not trying to scramble and find the place either, because that could be tough at times to figure out where in this big building is your prometric center.
I totally agree.
So we were talking about everything that we were doing the morning of. So Emily, was this a routine of yours, whether it's waking up on time, your breakfast, was this a routine that you did day to day leading up to this, or just spur of the moment?
So I can't say day to day, but it also definitely wasn't spur of the moment. So when I was taking my practice exams for the 8 or 9 consecutive weeks before the NPTE, each day of my testing exam, I acted like it was the exam day itself. So I woke up around the same time. I had a similar breakfast. I kind of mimicked what it would be like if that was me sitting for the actual exam day. The only thing I didn't do was actually, drive to the testing center, of course. But I woke up, I got my body used to kind of what time I would have to wake up, eat a similar breakfast. But I only really did that on my practice exam days, because the other days when I was working or I had other things going on, I couldn't really have that same structured schedule. But at least I did get acclimated to it one time a week during the practice exams. What did you do?
So I actually fit this into my routine for the most part, waking up on time. I always try to wake up very early and start my studying by 8 a.m. So this way, once that exam started at 8 a.m., it wasn't something new. My body and my mind, it was all prepared, all ready to go. So it was a routine for me. I did not try any new breakfast. I still had my coffee, but it's something I've been drinking every single day. It's nothing new. So it was fairly routine for me. And I would not, if you're going to try something new, the day to do it is not that day. You do not want to try something new that day of the exam.
Just like you're not supposed to try something new the day of a big race, the day of a big competition, pretty much anything in your life, you're never supposed to try it on the day where you need to succeed. So I completely agree with that. But the other thing you mentioned, right, is you got up early regularly. You kind of got yourself acclimated to that. I was also a morning studier. So I was already used to studying in the morning. And I know I'm way more efficient in the mornings, which is why I sat for the exam in the morning. Some people I know are much more efficient with studying later in the day. They're more night owls. That is not me. So that's another reason why I took the morning time slot. So I think it depends on trust yourself, trust your study habits. Are you a morning person or a later in the day person? And that may help you decide, if you haven't already decided, which specific time slot would be best for you based on, your day-to-day schedule.
Yeah. And something that you mentioned is that in the car, you were doing, or outside of your car, you were doing your stretching. So, what are some other things that you would do before your exam? Like while you were waiting, what else did you do besides stretching?
So I personally did a lot of stretching, just getting my body moving. I also did a lot of deep breathing techniques, just because that always helps me get grounded and centered. So those were pretty much the two biggest things. While I was driving, I made sure to just listen to some light music just to kind of help, because listening to kind of more acoustic type music really just helps me stay calm. So I listened to some music while I was driving. I tried to just really clear my head and get myself centered without overly thinking about the exam itself. What about you? What were some things you did in the morning?
So it probably would have been good to listen to that calming music, but instead I was listening to Led Zeppelin. But but when I was driving listening to Led Zeppelin, it was kind of like amping me up a little bit and preparing me for this exam. So it wasn't calming me, but it was getting me excited,
Yes, I
which
found like a motivational soundtrack like for the 10 minutes before I pulled into the parking lot. So I did something a little similar towards the end, but I couldn't have listened to Led Zeppelin for the entire hour.
exactly. No, I did not for the my car ride. It was probably 15 minutes. So it was a max of 10 minutes of Zeppelin. But then once I got to the parking lot, it was all relaxation and all good. It was just some deep breathing, just like yourself, in through the nose, out through the mouth, calming, just thinking positive vibes, visualizing that exam, what I was going to do in there, and then stretching. I think that taking advantage of the time to yourself, and especially before you enter that prometric center, It's so valuable. The last thing I wanted to do was to have to get to the Prometric Center, park my car, and then run into the Prometric Center because I was so paranoid that I was going to miss my time.
Totally. And with that being said, right, you're about to sit for a 5-hour exam. Although you got there early, does not mean you need to sit in your car for even longer. You need to get up and move because your body is not going to like sitting for that amount of time. So you can still get there early, do a little walk around in the parking lot, just get up, like we talked about, stretch, do something, deep breathing, just get up and move.
Yeah, just because you get there early, and even just because you walk into the Prometric Center itself and check in, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to sit for the exam exactly at that moment. You can still go use the restroom, stretch, do some deep breathing, meditation. You can still use that time to your advantage.
Yes, I completely agree. So, with all of this talk on kind of what we did to prepare the morning of the exam and just some general recommendations, what would you say is one crucial piece of advice you would want to give to students for the morning of their exam if they had to take away one major thing we discussed?
One major thing that I think is so valuable is taking that time to yourself to just clear your mind and find that peace of mind. I think that just sitting there, closing your eyes and breathing and just listening to your heart rate, just trying to slow yourself down and calm. I think that that is the most important thing that you can do that day of is just finding that moment to just escape in a way and to just calm yourself down. How about you?
So, I'm going to piggyback off of that and then go into another recommendation as well. So I completely agree. You need to center yourself, but within that, you need to trust yourself and trust how far you've come and know that you've done everything right to get to this point. And you need to just go into that exam with confidence. So that's kind of going off what you said. But another big piece of advice is fueling. And by fueling, I mean hydration and food. I know so many people when they're nervous, they may not really be that hungry. They may not want to really drink anything or eat anything before the exam. But it is so important to give yourself that fuel and that stamina to work off those 5 hours. Your brain needs fuel, it needs nutrients. So even though you're not hungry, you need to make sure you're eating something light, whether it's a granola bar, a bagel, something. You got to get something in your system and make sure you're having some fluids because you don't want to crash in the middle of your exam.
I totally agree with you. Now that you understand how to prepare the morning of the NPTE, here is a quote from Confucius. Success depends upon previous preparation, and without such preparation, there is such to be failure. So, warriors, prepare for this moment. Prepare for that day. Get that routine. Don't change it up that day of, and believe in yourself and go get your dream. You are powerful. You are strong. You are a final frontier warrior. You will pass.
Thank you very much for listening. For more information on the NPTE Final Frontier, please visit NPTEFF.com. You can also check out all of our social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok.
Till next time, have a great day and a powerful tomorrow.